Hello, everyone. My name is Ayman Chaudhary, and I'm the head of Global Compact Network Canada. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to our interview series with sustainability leaders. As a network of responsible businesses and as the Canadian chapter of the world's largest corporate sustainability initiative, UN Global Compact, our role here is to inspire more businesses to adopt sustainable practices and contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals, which we in short call SDGs. This interview series is to showcase outstanding action that accelerate the global goals undertaken by our network members. Our objective here is to highlight ambitious actions implemented by leaders to fast forward the 2030 agenda through the implementation of the 10 principles of the UN Global Compact. Also, to identify and recognize efforts from companies accelerating the integration of sustainability into their core business management. We are glad to feature today Kevin Coon from Baker McKenzie Canada as our sustainability leader. Kevin is a partner at Baker McKenzie Canada, and Baker McKenzie is a UN Global Compact participant, also a visionary supporter of our organization Global Compact Network Canada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kevin. It would be great if you kindly share a little bit about Baker McKenzie's commitment to sustainability and your role in the organization with our audience today.
Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to be here and be once again working with the Global Compact Network Canada. It's been a bit of a journey for Baker McKenzie with the UN Global Compact, the Sustainability Development Goals. And we just go back to 2015 and 16 when we as a law firm examined the possibility of joining the UN Global Compact as a signatory. The internal discussion we had about that, and it was unanimously endorsed by our organization as a key element in terms of moving forward as a global entity and as a leadership role. And so we did sign on to the UN Global Compact. We were the first major global law firm to do so, and we saw it as a critical tool and statement to make in terms of us as an organization internally, but also externally. In terms of moving forward on these issues. And then, of course, we were lucky enough to have the opportunity to work with the UN Global Compact Canada Network in supporting your work in its infancy as the UN reached out globally to strengthen its network, in-country networks, and you've been a critical piece of that in terms of the Canadian marketplace. So that's our journey. I'm one of those that has been at the forefront working with many of my colleagues and the leadership in our firm to advance these issues and culminating as to where we are today. And we've made significant progress that I'm glad to share with you over the course of this interview.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that brief introduction. It clearly shows that Baker McKenzie has a strong sustainability ambition. So I wanted to ask, what are some of the main drivers of this ambition at Baker McKenzie?
Yeah, thank you. It's been an interesting process. And when we looked at this initially to join the UNGC, and then in terms of our ongoing commitment as a supporter, we looked at it both from an internal perspective and then an external perspective in terms of our clients, and in terms of where the business community is going, where these issues are going and how they're addressing it. But we also thought that from an internal perspective, if we're going to be advising our clients on these critical issues, that we needed to be a leader as well as to how we were addressing this from an internal perspective. And so many of the sustainable development goals align with our internal objectives, both in terms of recruitment, retention, our people deal in terms of how we deal with people, diversity and inclusion. And so from an internal perspective, there's an alignment, but also on an external perspective in terms of advising our clients. And so, those drivers really meshed as to what we needed to do as an organization, so that we're as an organization sustainable in the longer term.
Absolutely. No, that's great. I also know that you are one of the 5 members of a working group with UN Global Compact drafting the framework for the implementation of the SDG 16. And that is one SDG where we actually do not see that most of the companies are committing that as one of their priority SDGs. So could you please elaborate a little bit about how does that SDG 16 apply to businesses, or probably the framework that you're working on? How does that apply to the businesses?
Yeah, in our connection with SDG 16 goes back some way, actually prior to the launch of the Sustainable Development Goals, because at that time, as the UN thought about launching of the 17 goals, the then Secretary General, declared that the strong rule of law was a key element to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And of course, SDG 16 encompasses the rule of law. And so at that time, we were asked by the UN Global Compact to help them to prepare a business for the rule of law framework, which we did as a precursor to the launch of the Sustainable Development Goals. And so our involvement started then and has carried through to where we are one of the key supporters of SDG 16. And SDG 16, strong peace, justice, and strong institutions is quite frankly critical when you think about the business community, our clients, the business community operating on a global level. And when we think about the UN guiding principles, when they talk about the role of governments, and that all relates back to business needing a predictable legal frameworks in which to operate globally, predictable and supportable. And so the rule of law, strengthening the rule of law in particular, deals with that issue in SDG 16. And so whatever we can do as to strengthen the rule of law around the globe so that not only businesses have a strong legal framework, but in the context of implementing and supporting human rights issues, human rights defenders, and those on the ground to have strong human rights protections, legal frameworks, and otherwise that serves on every level, and that's for the general good, but also in terms of supports, quite frankly, the implementation of the rest of the SDGs, and so it is actually quite a critical piece of the SDG puzzle. It's just that it's perhaps for some companies or for organizations less immediate as to what how they can participate, but there's a key role for business to play with regards to SDG 16. And so as our organization, when we looked at mapping our activity against the 17 goals, we identified goals 16. We also identified, interestingly, goal 17, because goals 16 and 17 are linked in terms of cooperation, who else you're working with in terms of advancing these issues, in terms of enhancing the rule of law.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kevin, for providing that wonderful elaboration for how SDG 16 actually applies to businesses and the opportunities for how businesses can do more around SDG 16. My next question to you is around measuring the impact of this sustainability and SDGs initiative, and which we have heard from the business community, like it has been a challenging task for many organizations. So as a sustainability leader, what recommendations do you have for your industry peers for tackling this challenge and doing the measurement of the impact or initiatives in a better way?
Yeah, one of the great things about the Sustainable Development Goals is it actually provides a framework for businesses in particular to action items. And so you've got the 17 goals, you've got the 100 plus subcategories under each of the goals. And so we as an organization, what we did, which I suspect is a good starting point for many organizations, is to do a bit of materiality assessment in terms of our own organization as to what are the key drivers in terms of your organization or the key goals, and map those out, and then map them against the 17 SDGs as to, let's say, to diversity inclusion is a key component in your organization as to what you're promoting. And then you can map that against one of the SDGs, and so goal 5, for example. And that was the exercise we did. And when we looked at our key materiality issues, both from a client perspective but an internal perspective, then we identified 8 goals that we were going to work towards. And then under each of those 8 goals, identified certain particular action items. So under Goal 5, for example, our diversity initiative, our diversity and inclusion initiative falls under there. It's gender equality is Goal 5, but then, how are we going to achieve that? And so, with our firm, we set global aspirational targets for gender equality in leadership roles, 40-40-20 as it's referred to. That was specifically around dealing with goal 5. And so we're able to measure that as we go year over year over year. And as a signatory to the UN Global Compact, we're required on a yearly basis to provide a progress report against the 10 principles under the UN under the UNGC. Mm-hmm. So we're able to then track those. You don't have to be a signatory per se to use that as a tool, as a very effective tool. And so the framework's already set out, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. And the other thing is that it's you can use it as an evolving tool. You may well set targets on, let's say, clean energy, and so then as an organization, you decide, where are you buying your power from? Is it sustainable or otherwise? What other efforts are you doing internally to support those types of initiatives? And so, you start big from the framework, and then you drill down as to actionable items within your organization as to how to then track against each of the sustainable development goals that you've decided as an organization are key.
Thank you so much again, Kevin, for sharing those great recommendations, and that too with some good examples. I'm sure your industry peers who are listening to this interview will find great inspiration from those recommendations. We have also heard that collaboration plays a great role in improving a company's sustainability performance. Can you highlight some of Baker McKenzie's partnership initiatives for the same?
Yeah, I really agree with that assessment, because no organization can do this alone, and these are this is all new stuff in one respect, and how one builds on that framework. There's so many great organizations to work with. In fact, you're one of them, the UN Global Compact Canada Network, and networks exist in each country, but who bring thought leadership to the issue, identifying and help us, and then supportive, and then best examples as to what business can or can't do, and then raising the profile of these issues and exploring them, bringing people together in workshops or otherwise to share best practices through various different organizations. So it's a great facilitator and thought leader. That's a very obvious example for me, and it's one that you and I have lived together for many years in terms of this and addressing these issues. But there's others as well. Other UN entities. We do work with the Thomson Reuters Foundation on the issue of Stop Slavery and addressing those issues about human rights, and that's another terrific partnership organization. The World Business Council for Sustainable Development, another entity, and our firm is quite engaged with the World Economic Forum as well, from a thought leadership perspective. And so each of those organizations has somewhat of a similar but different focus under the big umbrella of sustainability. And so depending on where your journey as an organization is taking you, those organizations provide great partnerships. And it really leads then to SDG 17. Mm-hmm. The UN guiding principle, the Sustainable Development Goals themselves mm-hmm. embody this notion that we can't do it alone, that you need civil society, you need international institutions, but you need the business community. And that's at the genesis and at the heart of Principle 17 about cooperation and collaboration to advance these goals. The goals are ambitious, and nobody disputes and achieving them. And so there is a collective view from the UN, and quite frankly, from a global perspective, of the need for this journey that we're taking to be a joint journey, and drawing on the resources and expertise that each of the stakeholders can bring to bear. So yeah, it's a key component.
Wow, that was an excellent response, Kevin. And thank you so much for mentioning Global Compact Network Canada as one of the strong partners in your sustainability journey. So I think I know you're very busy in your particular field, so I won't take much of your time more today. I'd like to thank you again for your time and for sharing your insights with our audience. I'm sure we will hear more amazing news coming out from Baker McKenzie communicating the commitment to sustainability and the SDGs. With
Yeah,
that, I would like to conclude today's interview series, and thank you for listening to today's live interview session.
yeah,
I
thank you. I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I wanted to have the chance to thank you in terms of initiating this series. When we talk about efforts to advance these issues, and this type of series is exactly that. And I know that you're juggling many things at the UN Global Compact and pulled in many directions, but when I view in terms of what's happening globally about the various networks, and of course Canada, what you've created there at the UN Global Compact Canada, stands out as a leading example of what can be achieved globally. And so my congratulations to you and your team for all the efforts that you've done to raise the profile of these issues and advance them in a significant way here in Canada.
That is so kind of you, Kevin, and the pleasure is all ours. We couldn't have done that without active support and kind of great guidance from leaders like you. So thank you so much for being there and guiding us all the way through. So with that, I would like to conclude today's interview series. Thank you so much again for listening today. I welcome you to attend the next one. Please stay tuned, and thank you